nice, lively discussion about girls, comics. Awesome. So we'll start from this side over here. Please give us a brief introduction.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Pellerito. I'm the managing editor of Archie Comics. We have been a girls company for almost 70 years. It's probably a 60-40 split. We have Sabrina, Josie, Archie, Betty, Veronica, a wide variety of stuff. And we get a tremendous amount of old school blogs called fan mail and fan art, and most of it is from very vocal and talented young girls.
Next.
I'm a girl.
Yay.
And I've been doing comic books for a very long time. And I started with Angel Love for DC Comics. And presently I'm working with Archie Comics, doing Betty and Veronica, my two favorite girls. And I also am teaching graphic novels upstate New York and writing a column about how to do a graphic novel. So I'm promoting the idea that comics are absolutely for girls. And actually, over the last couple of years, I think the girls have really caught on because of the manga influence.
Fantastic.
Hey, I'm Jimmy Gownley. I too am a girl. I've just had kind of a hard life. But I'm the writer and artist of a comic book called Amelia Rules, which features a girl. And I'm also one of the co-founders of Kids Love Comics, which is a nonprofit literacy advocacy group that encourages using comic books to encourage a love of reading in boys and girls. And we just found out we're from the same hometown.
He says it's in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I said I was brought up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
There you go.
we don't live in the same house. So.
No.
My name's Alana. I'm an artist from Brooklyn, New York, and I work for Real Buzz, and I've been a long-time reader of comics for girls and for boys since I was very, very young. So.
Alana undersells herself. She's not just an artist, she's an excellent artist. She's worked with us on our upcoming Couplers series. She has worked with us on our existing Serenity series, and part of the reason that I brought her here was to help explain how the writer and the artist work together. We'll show some stuff on how we created a character together, her art concepts based off of our text ideas. My name is Buzz Dixon. I'm not a girl, but I live in a household with one. So I have two daughters who are both grown now, and I've always had an interest in comics for them because when they were growing up, they didn't have anything. So when I had the opportunity to create something, I wanted to create something for the tween-to-teen girl market, and that's what Real Buzz Studios is all about.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Raina Telgemeier. And most of my life, I've been reading comics that weren't necessarily for boys or girls. They were just comics that I liked. Hopefully they were funny and had kids in them and things like that. One of the things that I do is I create a webcomic called Smile, a dental drama, which is about the time that I knocked out my 2 front teeth when I was 11 years old. Kind of a pleasant topic, but a lot of kids have had braces, and a lot of kids can understand what it's like to go through dental trauma. So it's about me, therefore it's about a girl, and I also write an autobiographical webcomic. No, it's not a webcomic, it's a mini-comic called Takeout. That's also stories about my life growing up, and currently I'm the artist and adapter of the Babysitters Club series, which is published through Scholastic Graphics. A totally girl-centric series of novels that I read when I was growing up, and now I'm making comics about them, which is awesome. And I was also recently hired to write an X-Men shoujo manga for Del Rey and Marvel Comics, and that's another really cool job. And Kitty Pryde is the main character of that story, and it's going to be drawn by an Indonesian artist named Anzu. That'll be out next year.
Wow. Thank you, panelists. My name is Christine Nori. I've been in comics professionally for about 15 years. In the last 8 years, I've been an artist for Oni Press, Disney Adventures, and Scholastic. My more popular books include Hopeless Savages and the graphic novel Breaking Up, and I am a girl with boy taste and girl taste, and I have a 4-year-old girl who is crazy about comics. So anyway, so now that we have the introductions, let's go ahead and start with our questions. We have a couple questions for our panelists, and then we'll move on to Q&A to find out what you guys would like to hear from these guys. So the first question I have is, what comics influenced you as a child and set you on this path to doing the work that you're currently doing today?
All of them. If it was, well, my grandfather was an artist and he grew up in the house with us. He was like a Rockwell-esque sort of painter and art director. So if I started to draw something poorly, he would smack my hand and teach me how to do it. But if it was a comic book, a comic strip, a doodle on the paper, whatever it was, I loved it. And if I haven't read a comic book, I haven't heard of it yet. So I'll hopefully find out more here today.
Awesome.
Mostly, I read comics as a kid, and I had a babysitter who could draw, and she was on the phone all night with her boyfriend, but she could draw. So I always wanted her to come over and be my babysitter. She was really mean, but she could draw. And I read a lot of Archie, and I would say Stan Goldberg and Dan DeCarlo were big influences in my life.
For me, I learned how to read. My mom would read me Charles Schultz, Peanuts strips, and those old Fawcett Crest books. A cousin of mine came up from Philadelphia to visit and brought a bag of them and then left them there. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, was he left his books behind. So I mean, Charles Schultz has just been a huge influence in my life. And then later on, when I was 14 or whatever, I got to my first comic book store and I saw ElfQuest and Love and Rockets and Cerebus and Zot, and all on the first day. And that just sealed that I wanted to be a cartoonist, but I wanted to do comic books. I mean, Wendy Pini was just such a huge influence on me. That first ElfQuest series was amazing.
I grew up mostly on Archie comics. I think those were the main comics that I read as a child. But as for comics that influenced my artistic style, I mainly read Rumiko Takahashi, Ranma, and Inuyasha in high school, and shoujo manga like Sailor Moon, mostly things like that.
Karl Barks' Scrooge McDuck, with a bullet. I mean, this growing up, this consumed my imagination the way nothing else did.
I was a big fan of newspaper comic strips, so my favorites were Calvin and Hobbes, For Better or For Worse, which is still probably my kind of keystone of influences, Foxtrot, Far Side, Garfield, things that made me laugh and things that I liked the artwork for. I graduated to reading kind of alternative comics when I was a little bit older, and Bone was definitely at the forefront of me reading and saying, okay, this is definitely what I want to do. And there's a comic called Optic Nerve, which is by Adrian Tomine, I believe is how you pronounce that. I always said Tomine, but then people always correct me. Okay, Optic Nerve, it's a sort of autobiographical comic about just kind of like loner life in the Bay Area, and I'm from the Bay Area, so that was really cool. And now I read just about anything that crosses my path. I love manga, I love webcomics, I love graphic novels, I love kids comics. I guess we're not into that question yet, so I'll turn the mic back over to Christine.
Okay. I guess that leads into our next question, thank you, Rita, which is, what project are you working on now that you feel like is specifically for girls, or if that's even a question that comes into your mind and it just happens to come out, that girls are attracted to it? And anybody can jump in on this one if you feel. Yeah.
All of them?
All of them?
I mean, even the heroic, like Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic X, those kind of books, it has a tremendous female readership. And we put a lot of romance and drama and stuff you might not find in most superhero comic books. And it is geared towards a younger audience as well as an older audience. But with everything we do, no matter what it is, we kind of think of everybody, especially girls.
Basically, I'm doing a column that's reaching out to boys and girls, and I've been really thrilled that these classes that I have, it's not boys doing superheroes. It's pretty much divided right down the middle of girls and boys. So what I've taken from teaching is what the kids need to go to the next step. So that's what this column is about. So that's really what I'm working on. I'm also doing a book about teaching graphic novels.
Well, with Amelia, this is super corny, but I came out of the self-publishing kind of thing of the 90s, which was black and white, very indie, DIY, and the one thing you didn't think about was the audience. You know, I'm just expressing myself, man. And then I realized that that's nice and everything, but it'd be nice if you A, had something to express, and B, if you thought of the audience you're trying to express it to. So the corny thing that I do with Amelia is, I think, all right, imagine this little girl. She's 10 years old. She's the saddest little girl in the world. You don't necessarily know why, but she's not in a great place. And you have 32 pages to say something important to her. And what are you going to